We are John and Ellie, the Barefoot Doctors. Join us on this new chapter on our brand new Leopard 45 catamaran as we unearth the jewels of the Med. And the world. Because life is better barefoot.
So here we are sailing down the west coast of Italy from Civitavecchia to Ponza. Now thanks to all of our subscribers who have corrected our pronunciation, so it's Civitavecchia. So hopefully this time we've got it right. Anyway, we're on an 85-mile journey to the magical islands of Ponza. As this is an 85-mile stretch with not very much of interest on the way, we decide to do an overnight passage. So we're sailing along now. The wind's picked up to 12 knots. We started off and it was fiddling around 6, 5, 4, 8 knots and directly on the nose. So it wasn't from the south, it was from the southeast. Actually the predictions were from the southwest, but now they've changed and they're saying from the south, but it's actually coming from the southeast, which is exactly the direction we want to go, and that's often the way it is. However, now the wind at least has gone slightly south of our direction, only about 10 degrees, but at least that's given us 10 degrees more on course for when we're sailing. And we're doing now, in 12 knots of wind, we're doing about around 6 knots of boat speed, so that's pretty good. I'm very happy with that, and at least we're making the miles.
Thank goodness for that.
I know.
A happy captain. That's what we want.
Well, you don't want a grumpy captain, is that the problem, is it?
No grumpy captains around here, thanks.
I must say I enjoy sailing, but I do get irritated when, you know, the wind's from the wrong direction or the forecasts are wrong. You just have to live with it, unfortunately. But it still is irritating because you make plans, you know, we made plans and really this isn't, the forecast seems to be fairly reliably unreliable, doesn't it, honey?
Yeah, I said the only absolutes around here are that there are no absolutes.
Oh.
I've got onion stingy eyes.
I know. And you look gorgeous. But we are hard on the wind here, going upwind, and we've got obviously the Genoa and the mainsail out. So Ponza's probably 20 degrees off that way. We are going to hit the land if the wind doesn't change direction over there in about 15 miles. But right now it's lovely. And behind us is Civitavecchia. I have to say it with an Italian accent to get the word out correctly. Do you want to tell me what happened with the quiche?
Well, as we were going, the quiche is in the oven, right? And it's made up of an egg mixture, right? So it's in the oven, we're going over the ways like that, and the quiche is sliding to the front and kind of slopping and tipping, but the protection tray was out because it sort of sometimes jams. So I had to try and get the protection tray in to stop the quiche from kind of slamming to the front of the glass door. So it was a challenge, but we made it through. And this is lunch. Brownie with peppermint chocolate icing.
I think I'll keep you.
For people, half a piece of cake.
Just like that. Gone.
So what is this?
So this is really great to have on board because a lot of it is stores, except for some celery and capsicum. But you know, we've had corn, there's pasta. It's a combination of mayo, mayonnaise, and Greek yogurt, and mustard, and curry powder. Salt and pepper to taste. Also some sultanas that give the curry powder a real bang. So, but it's really a great thing to have on board because, as I said, most of it is stores.
Nice filling for bottomless pits.
For hungry boys and girls.
So when you're looking at the chart, what I've got the chart set for, the true wind speed is at the top, the depth is next, speed over the ground is next, and this is the course over the ground. We're going 5.8 knots and 11 knots of wind, and the depth is 24 meters. As you can see, that's Civitavecchia. This is Fiumicino, which is just down on the coast from Rome. Our destination is there, which is Ponza. Here is the boat. The black line out the front of the boat is the direction the boat is pointing, but the blue line is the direction the boat's actually heading. So as you can see, we're hard on the wind, so we've got a leeway of about, I suppose that's 5 degrees, maybe 10, but certainly not very much, and that's fairly normal. But as you can see, although we're pointing to clear the point of land at Fiumicino, the way the boat slides slightly sideways, where it looks like we're not going to make it, which is a bit will be a bit of a shame if that's the case. The yellow pointy thing is the wind direction, the true wind direction, so it's coming from that angle, about 45 degrees off our bow, and 11 or 12 knots. I have this set with these rings, so it's easy to see how far away things are. So this point of land is actually 7.5 miles away, so we've still got about another hour until we have to take action. Obviously on the chart, the other boats you can see with their AISs, view AIS data. So this vessel, Dreamland, it's an 85-foot yacht, 13-foot beam, 12-foot depth. It's going 8.6 knots. None of these boats are on a collision course with us, but if any of these boats with the AISs were on a collision course with us, they flash red, so you know those are the ones you've got to look for. These electronic charts are also good because they have things like, you know, no anchoring signs, no fishing signs, so you have lots of information there to help you when you're passing by. I'm just going to see if I can set the auto helm just a few degrees higher. I'll try 3 degrees and see what the speed does and what the telltales do. On the chart now, we are very close to Fiumicino. Going to leave it at that for a little while. Still 5 or 6 miles to go. So here we are, just passing the Fiumicino marina with the tower, and you can see all the yachts. Okay, so we've just replaced the Genoa with the code 0, 5.8 knots in 8 knots. With the Genoa up, we do about half the wind speed going to windward from my experience sailing this 45, and if we're off the wind, we do about 2/3 of the wind speed. With the code 0, if it's a suitable angle going across the wind, not dead downwind, but across the wind, then we generally do about 2 knots under the wind speed, or if it's 4 knots we might do 3 knots, but once you get to 6 knots and above, 6 knots we do 4 knots, 8 knots we do 6 knots, 9, 10, 11s we're starting to be 3 knots under the wind speed probably, realistically. So you know, in 11 and 12 knots we're doing 7 or 8 knots, that's something like that. And it does mean the code 0 is a very valuable sail, certainly for us so far. I would like a big Jenica, which a Jenica will be like this code 0, except it'll be flat and longer and come all the way back to this shroud, so fill in all that space. So that's very much a light wind sail for going more downwind, just to give you essentially a big balloon. We don't have a Jenica, but we are going to be getting a parasailer, which is more a completely downwind sail that is strung with sheets and guys, so 4 ropes at the bottom end and obviously the halyard at the top. So it'll be interesting when we get that to see how the boat performs with that. So interesting stuff. So here we have a motorboat, and people have just obviously left Rome, or the bobbers, yeah, Elizabeth calls them bobbers. So jumping off the back of the boat, and they are just swimming in the middle of the ocean to get away from it all. Nice. So your shift?
My shift, 6 to 9. It's still light at 9 o'clock at night. So.
It is. So the wind has dropped to 2.9 to 3.9 knots. It's 2.7. It's really not enough to sail, so we've dropped the code 0, tied it on the front deck in case we need to use it again. The mainsail is just flapping, and as long as it doesn't flap too much to either annoy us or damage the sail, we'll leave it up there to catch any wind if it does arise. So we unfortunately now have to turn the engines on, and there we go. We are now a motorboat.
I think we did really well to get as far as we did sailing today. It was good sailing.
Yeah, we've had a really good day of sailing actually, considering the weather forecast was only to have about 3 or 4 hours of wind. Then it was meant to be flat after that, so we benefited from the sea breezes, the land heating up and sucking the air up, so you get that wind that blows from the sea onto the land. So we benefited that until now, and now it's, what is it, about 7 o'clock at night. So we've got another couple of hours of daylight, then it'll go dark, and I'm sure this wind will die off even more. Then we'll have to see if anything comes up through the night. So I'm on watch for the 3 to 6 shift, and we had to put the sails back up at about 2 AM on David's watch, but now we are sailing along in very soft winds, but at least we're sailing. We can turn the engines off and do the last 12 miles or so under sail, but it's going to be a slow 12 miles, but it doesn't really matter because we are still in the middle of the night. Dawn is about 6, so taking 4 hours, it means we're going to be sailing into Ponza in the dawn, so that's much better than actually sailing in the dark. We could have done it if necessary, because the bay where we're going to, we've chosen a bay that's very wide and open, nice easy access. But yeah, now it'll be the dawn, so that's fine. We'll hopefully have a really nice entry to Ponza where we can see all the cliffs and all the jagged rocks, so very exciting. After motoring for some hours, when the wind died, we then got some wind, as in only 6 knots, basically from the beam initially, but now it's going more to behind us, and that means we are going a bit more slowly. We were getting 4 knots out of it before with the Genoa and the mainsail, but now we're only getting 3 or sometimes 2.5. As the wind goes behind you, the efficiency of the sails reduces because your speed reduces the apparent wind, which is obviously just part of life. We are here, we've got to go through one of these gaps. There's the waypoint that I put in because I thought that would be an easier gap to go through in the dark, but now that we're here, I can see these rocks which are right in front of us there. So I'm going to go through the gap between there and there, and it's obviously a nice big wide gap. It's probably less than 1/4 mile, but close to 1/4 mile. Okay, so the beach is guarded by these police people in Guardia Costiera in white shirts. They came up and told us we weren't allowed to leave the boat on the beach. We had to leave it in the water, and only for a short time. We didn't ask what a short time was, so we'll see when we come back if it wasn't a short time. Or we'll try to come back and leave really quickly before they can catch us.
Yeah.
Romantic setting for two.
Looks like me.
Ponza is so spectacular. I don't just want to stay here a few days. I want to stay a whole week with its crystal clear waters, spectacular cliffs, and cute little village towns and shops. I've just got to talk the captain into it. So if you stick around and you watch next week's episode, you'll see if I manage to talk him into a few more days of this spectacular place. So like and subscribe. Oh, you know what to do, but kick off your shoes and come barefoot with us.